March 12th, 1971, 11:38 p.m. The Hi-Hat Bar, 147 West 125th Street, Harlem. Frank Lucas' wife was boxed in at the counter by three out-of-town racists with Klan ties, and their real target wasn't her dignity. It was a public incident, a police report, and a clean excuse to drag Frank into a headline or a coffin. The impossible part was the room. Too many witnesses, a payphone that kept ringing, and a plainclothes NYPD detective parked by the wall like a tripwire. But the front door opened, cold air rolled in, and the man who walked through it wasn't Frank. The hi-hat was the kind of place you found on purpose, not by luck. No neon. Smoked glass door. Brass handle rubbed bright by nervous hands. Inside, the jukebox stayed low, the lights stayed warm, and the crowd stayed tight. Apollo workers off shift, cabbies counting tips, a drummer arguing with his own future, and men who drank like they were hiding receipts. Behind the bar, Leon, the bartender, kept a white towel over his shoulder and wiped the same patch of wood as if polish could prevent problems. Eva Lucas sat two stools from the register, purse tucked under her elbow, hair pinned back, coat still on. She hadn't come to be seen. One quick drink with her cousin Denise, then home. That was the plan until the first man leaned in. Pale, late 20s, crew cut, denim jacket collar up, smile too practiced. He spoke loud enough to be overheard, but soft enough to deny. "You're not from around here." Eva didn't give him the fear he came for. "I'm having a drink," she said. He laughed like she'd joined a joke. Then two more slid in, synchronized. One shorter with a gold ring and eyes that didn't blink much. One taller and heavier with a mustache and a laugh built for an audience. They weren't drunk. They were deliberate. That detail tightened Leon's throat. Gold ring dropped a slur into the air like a match and waited to see what it lit. Mustache scanned the room like he was taking attendance. Crew cut angled his body to block Eva's view of the door. A small move that told Denise this wasn't random. Denise leaned in, whispering, "We should go." Eva's voice stayed level. "Not running." Leon tried a gentle warning. "Fellas, let it go." Gold ring didn't look at him. "Stay in your lane." The room didn't fall silent. Not exactly, but it tightened. Glasses touched wood quieter. Chairs stopped scraping. People pretended to listen to the jukebox while listening to everything else. At the far end by the payphone, a man in a tan trench coat flipped a quarter between his fingers. No uniform, no badge on display, but the way nobody bumped him said police. Eva clocked him without turning her head. The trench coat clocked her like she was bait. Gold ring leaned closer, tapping the rim of her glass. Ping, 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 like a child testing pain. "You got a husband?" he asked. Eva didn't answer. He smiled wider. "You do. I can see it. You got that my man is somebody look." Mustache chuckled. "Your man don't mean nothing in here." Crew Cut's eyes flicked toward the door like he was checking a schedule. Gold Ring's voice sweetened into mock courtesy, which is always worse than yelling. "Say your name," he said. "For the room." Eva turned her head slowly and looked at him like he was a stain she'd seen before. No, somebody in the back let out a small laugh before swallowing it. Gold Ring's smile flattened. He wanted shame with witnesses. He wanted a spark. Denise slid off her stool, murmuring, "I'm calling Frank," and slipped toward the door before Eva could stop her. Outside, March air hit Denise like a slap. She hurried to the phone booth at the corner, shoulders tight, feeding coins with shaking fingers. Back inside, Gold Ring kept pressure steady. "Smart mouth for somebody alone," he said. Eva nodded toward the mirror behind the bar. In the reflection, the whole room existed. "I'm not," she said. Mustache leaned closer. "This room won't save you." That line sounded rehearsed, like something written for a report. The payphone rang once. Metallic. Everyone heard it. The trench coat didn't move. The phone rang a second time. Leon's hand tightened on his towel. The phone rang a third time, and Leon walked over like he didn't want to, picked up, and said, "Hi-hat." His face changed as he listened. He covered the mouthpiece and murmured to Eva, "It's for you." Eva walked to the phone without hurrying. The three men shifted with her, keeping the box tight. The trench coat watched her approach like a referee watching a bell. Eva lifted the receiver. Yes. Frank Lucas' voice came through low, controlled, tight in a way Eva recognized. Eva. She didn't say help. She didn't have to. I know, she said. Frank didn't ask what they'd said. He asked the only question that mattered if a trap was being staged. Is there a cop in there? Eva's eyes slid toward the trench coat without turning her head. Yes. Frank exhaled once. Don't touch them, he said. Don't let me touch them. Because if Frank Lucas walked into a bar and put hands on white men with a cop watching, the story would be written before midnight and the ending would be a siren. Eva handed the phone to Leon when Frank asked. Frank spoke fast. You got a back door? Leon swallowed. Kitchen exit. Lock it, Frank said. Lock everything except the front. Leon whispered, why? Frank didn't explain. Lock it. Now. Leon signaled the busboy, and the kid disappeared toward the kitchen. Then Frank said a name that chilled Leon's blood. Robertson's in there. Leon's eyes widened. You sure? Positive, Frank said. He wants it on paper. He wants witnesses. He wants me swinging. Leon's voice cracked. Frank, don't come here. Frank paused, the kind of pause that means a decision already happened. I'm not, he said. But somebody is. What you mean? Leon asked, even though he already feared the answer. Frank said it anyway. Nikki. Leon hung up, hands trembling. Goldring noticed Leon's face and fed on it. Who's coming? He asked, smiling for the room. Leon forced a laugh that sounded like a cough. Nobody. The lie didn't land. Crew cut slid his hand inside his jacket, slow enough to be seen, not drawing anything, just resting somewhere hidden to create a picture. Mustache raised his voice again for the audience. You'll talk tough when you got numbers, but you quiet when it's just three of us. A man near the back muttered, ain't just three, but didn't finish because finishing would mean admitting the network behind the hate. Goldring leaned into Eva's space and said another slur, slower, savoring it. Then he added, say your last name. Eva's voice stayed level. No, Crew cut smiled like he'd been waiting. You think you're protecting him, he said. You're protecting the wrong thing. You're protecting their illusion that Harlem runs Harlem. Robertson shifted his weight by the payphone, eyes moving between Eva, the three men, and the door. He wanted the first spark, the first shove, the first swing. Goldring snapped his fingers at Leon. Bourbon, he said. Put on her tab. Leon didn't move. Goldring leaned in. I said, the front door opened. Cold air rushed in. Street noise leaked through. A distant siren wailed, maybe real, maybe not. Nicky Barnes stepped inside in a dark coat, collar up, hands visible. No crowd poured in behind him. If he had men, they weren't in the doorway. That unsettled Robertson more than a gun would have. Nicky didn't scan the room like a tourist. He found the hinge points, the bartender, the payphone, the trench coat, the three men pressed too close to Eva. His eyes touched Robertson for half a second. Recognition, not a stare. Two men who'd read each other's file. Nicky walked to the bar without hurrying. Each step said the same thing. I'm not afraid of your timing. Crew cut turned with a smirk ready, then hesitated when his brain recognized the face from whispers and warnings. Nicky stopped 2 feet away. He didn't address the men first. He spoke to Eva, because respect is a weapon. You all right? Eva nodded once. I'm standing. Nicky's mouth twitched into something that refused to be friendly. Good. Then he turned to the three men and lowered his voice until the room leaned in. You came a long way for a bad idea. Goldring puffed his chest, trying to reclaim the stage. You Barnes? We heard of you. Nicky nodded. You heard wrong things. Mustache scoffed. You ain't God. Nicky cut him off with a glance that killed the sentence in his throat. Nicky spoke like he was balancing books. Here's what's gonna happen. You apologize to the lady. You leave. You forget you ever found this door. Goldring laughed loud, asking the trap question for witnesses and for Robertson. Or what? You gonna hit me? In front of all these people? In front of the police? Nicky didn't answer right away. He looked past him at Robertson. Detective, Nicky said, calm. You still taking notes? Are you finally going to do your job? The room tightened. Names weren't supposed to be spoken. Robertson stepped forward, voice sharp. You don't know me. Nikki's tone stayed even. I know enough. You don't drink here. You don't live here. You didn't come for a good time. Goldring's eyes flicked to Robertson. A quick check for backup that revealed more than a hit. Nikki saw it and let silence swell until it hurt. Now I know who sent you, Nikki said. Crew cut blurted too fast. Nobody sent us. Nikki reached into his coat. A few people flinched, but he didn't pull a gun. He pulled a folded paper and laid it on the bar like a receipt. Goldring squinted. What's that? Nikki tapped it once. Your address, he said. Queens. A little clubhouse with a flag out back. Crew cut went pale. Mustache tried to deny it, but Nikki didn't argue. He added one detail that made the threat real. I didn't guess, Nikki said. I paid. Goldring forced a laugh, thin. You making stuff up? Nikki nodded like he was indulging a child. You want to know what else I got? He pulled out a black wallet, opened it for one clean second, then closed it. Goldring's eyes widened before he could control them. He blurted, That's my cousin's license. The bar went dead quiet because he hadn't asked whose it was. He'd identified it. Connection exposed. Network exposed. Nikki's voice stayed soft. So you do know, he said. You know who you're messing with. You just thought you had a badge in the room to save you. Robertson stepped forward, trying to seize the scene. That's enough. All of you outside. Now. Nikki turned slightly. You sure you want outside, detective? Outside is where your friends are. Robertson's jaw tightened. Goldring lifted his hands like he was suddenly reasonable. We leaving, he said quickly. No trouble. Just bar talk. Crew cut echoed him. Mustache forced a grin. Nikki let them keep that inch of dignity, because an inch can prevent a building from burning down. Apologize, Nikki said. Goldring looked at Eva, pride wrestling fear, then glanced at Robertson again. Nikki's voice cooled. Don't look at him, he said. He ain't your father. Goldring swallowed. I'm sorry, he rasped. Crew cut muttered sorry. Mustache hesitated, pride heavy. Nikki looked at him. You too. Mustache started. I ain't apologizing to a glass shattered somewhere. Accident or signal. Nobody knew. Robertson's hand twitched toward his pocket. Chair scraped. Body shifted. For half a second the bar teetered toward chaos, toward the exact picture Robertson wanted. Nikki raised one hand, palm out, not to hush the crowd, but to stop Robertson. Don't, Nikki said. Robertson froze, because he understood the worst thing. In this room, his badge didn't make him the most dangerous man. Mustache swallowed and said, quick and flat, sorry. Nikki nodded once. Good. Then he gave the room a script that protected it. He spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. You want a story? Here it is. 3 out-of-town idiots ran their mouths. They apologized. They left. Nobody got touched. That's the story. Robertson snapped. That ain't the story. Nikki's tone stayed level. It is tonight, he said, unless you want another one. Robertson leaned in, anger rising. You threatening a police officer? Nikki didn't blink. I'm educating you. Goldring moved toward the door fast. Crew cut followed. Mustache lagged, half a beat like a man addicted to the last word. As he passed Eva, he muttered one more insult under his breath, quiet enough to think it was private. Harlem heard it anyway. A man at the end of the bar stood up too fast, stool tipping. That's enough, the man said, voice shaking. Mustache turned, eyes flaring. Sit down. The room surged again, exactly the surge that becomes sirens. Nikki stepped between the spark and the powder, not protecting Mustache, protecting the room from becoming Robertson's report. Nikki looked at Mustache and said, almost tired, you can't help yourself. Mustache sneered, cop right there, like it was armor. Nikki repeated it slowly, tasting it. Cop right there. Then he turned slightly and spoke to the room, issuing the scariest order because it wasn't violence, it was memory. Everybody remember his face, Nikki said. Everybody remember his voice. because this is the last night he gets to use it in Harlem. Mustache's bravado flickered as he noticed men he hadn't noticed before, quiet guys by the bathroom, by the jukebox, by the door, standing without hurry, hands visible, watching him like a problem that could be solved clean. Nicky didn't tell them to touch him. He didn't need to. He just said go. Mustache went. The three men stepped outside onto 125th Street, where a dark Lincoln Continental idled at the curb, long and quiet, no front plate. On the passenger seat, visible through the windshield, sat a Polaroid photo of the three of them in daylight outside a Queens clubhouse, smiling like idiots who thought hoods meant invisibility. Gold ring stopped dead. Crew Cut's knees went soft. Mustache stared like he'd seen a ghost. The photo meant preparation. It meant they'd been watched before tonight. Nicky stood in the doorway, half in shadow, watching them see it. "You understand now," he called out calm. Gold ring tried to speak, but fear strangled the sound. Robertson pushed toward the door, tried to reclaim the moment. "Barnes," Nicky cut him off with something that sounded almost polite. "You want to arrest somebody, detective? Arrest them. They started trouble. You saw it. Everybody saw it." Robertson hesitated. His trap had failed. Arresting the three men ruined the plan. Arresting Nicky required a reason. Arresting Eva lit a fuse he couldn't put out. That hesitation told the room what Robertson really was. Inside, the air loosened for a beat like a lung exhaling. Nicky didn't let it become relief for long. Relief is when traps reset. He leaned toward Leon. "You got a pen?" Leon handed one over like it was fragile. Nicky wrote on the back of a matchbook, slow and careful, tore it off, slid it to Eva. "What's that?" Eva asked. "An address," Nicky said. "And a time." Eva's eyes narrowed. "Tonight." "Not you," Nicky said. "Not Frank. Somebody else." Robertson snapped. "What's that?" Nicky didn't look at him. "Receipt," he said. Robertson's face reddened. "You think you run this city?" Nicky's tone stayed flat. "No," he said, "but I know who does. And it ain't you." Outside, the Lincoln eased away without sound. The three men disappeared into the street, hate still in their chest, fear welded on top of it. Inside, the hi-hat returned to motion, glasses clinking, low talk, people pretending the last 20 minutes hadn't changed the meaning of safety. Eva tucked the matchbook paper into her purse and didn't thank Nicky, because gratitude can become debt in their world. Nicky leaned close enough that only she could hear. "Tell Frank he did right," he said. Eva's voice stayed hard. "They were sent." Nicky nodded once. "Yeah," he said. "Somebody wants Frank messy, me angry, and Robertson famous." The word famous made Robertson flinch like it had teeth, because fame for a man like him came from bodies and headlines, not medals. Nicky turned to leave. No speech, no show, just a man stepping out into cold air, leaving a room full of witnesses who understood something cold. The street doesn't always kill you with bullets. Sometimes it kills you with paperwork, with cameras, with a right shove in the right room. The next morning, the Amsterdam News ran a small item on page 4. "Disturbance at 125th Street bar ends without arrests." No names, no details. Clean and useless. Harlem didn't need print. By noon, the real story had spread with sharper edges. Three Klan boys came hunting for a moment and found a mirror. A detective tried to set a trap and got caught holding the string. And the most chilling part wasn't that nobody got hurt. It was why nobody got hurt, because it meant the men in charge were thinking further than a punch. Frank heard the full version at 3:06 a.m. at home, blinds drawn, city humming outside like an engine. He didn't slam the table. He didn't promise revenge. He stared at the matchbook paper and said, "He wanted me on paper." Eva answered, "He wanted me as the reason." Frank nodded, because the ugliest truth was simple. If they could turn Eva into bait, they could turn anything into bait. At 9:12 a.m., Frank called Nicky once. No small talk. "You walked in when I couldn't," Frank said. Nicky's answer was calm. "I walked in because I could." Frank asked, "Robertson alone?" Nicky paused like a door closing. A badge never hunts by itself, he said. Somebody's feeding that hunger. And that was the aftertaste, the cold one, the one that stayed. Three racists weren't the danger. The danger was the structure that sent them, the detective who wanted witnesses more than peace, the system that could write a death sentence with clean hands. Harlem learned it in one night at one bar, and once a lesson like that spreads, it doesn't unspread. It waits. It watches. It remembers faces. It remembers voices. And the next time someone thinks power is loud, the next time someone thinks hate can walk into Harlem and leave with a story, the next time a man with a badge thinks the night belongs to him, a door will open, cold air will rush in, and the room will remember who actually writes the ending.